Hi, guys. It's good to talk to you. I sure do miss being in the classroom with you all. Today, I'm going to go through the second part of the three-part series of Freud's PowerPoint. I'm going to talk to you guys about psychosexual stages, excuse me. Last time I talked to you about the id, the ego, and the superego. I hope that all made sense to you all. So now I'm going to go through the psychosexual stages. So what Freud believed was he believed that we actually would, Freud believed that we developed our personality by the age of 5. And he said that we all go through these stages. The problem is if you don't get these stages resolved, you will become fixated. That's an important word. You want to make sure you write that word down. It means stuck. So even though you might mature through your birthdays and get older, as I am 50 years of age, I could still be potentially stuck in an oral phase of Freud's psychosexual stages due to the fact if I did not get that resolved. So these are conflicts that we have at birth. And by the age of 5, he said our personalities are developed and we all go through these stages. So again, please do not get stuck on these ages that at 18 months, this does end. It doesn't end if it doesn't get resolved. So something to be considered. You need to know the stages. The easiest way to remember the stages is a very simple, stupid little saying that a student of mine years ago said. He said, only apes prefer large grapes. I will repeat that over and over again, but only apes prefer large grapes. I actually even use that today. And that way you can remember the order. So the oral stage begins at birth and happens till about 18 months of age. During this stage, we have the focus. So what you're going to see here on the PowerPoint is I've divided it up into what's the physical focus, but then what happens psychologically to us. And then if you don't get it resolved, what can potentially happen to us as an adult too. I do want to say that this is probably this series of today of what I'm going to talk to you about, the psychosexual stages, are probably the most highly controversial. Most psychologists don't necessarily follow these so much today, but this is something that was a foundation of Freud's belief system. So the oral stage begins at 0 to 18 months. And what happens is you have this physical focus of everything has to go in your mouth. So any of you that ever watch children, you know, if you have a little baby brother or sister, niece, nephew, cousin, they do like to put things in their mouth all the time. So that doesn't seem that odd or weird that Freud would actually say that. The theme, though, for the psychological theme is dependency. So, and the reason is because you're dependent on somebody else all the time at that age to try to help you achieve that gratification, is what I want to say. So, um, as a baby during this stage, one of the biggest things that parents must go through is they must wean you off of like breastfeeding or bottle feeding, must try to wean you off of a pacifier if you are dependent on that. And what happens if you don't wean successfully is you can become either overly independent where you don't want anybody to ever help you at all as an adult, like you really strongly have a problem asking for assistance or help when you need it. Personally, I know that's something that I have when I've been in some issues in my personal life. I've really struggled with asking for assistance or help from people that I know would give it to me. It's just really hard for me to ask for help. So some of you might be able to relate to that. Or you could go to the other extreme where um, you really aren't very independent at all and you want everything done for you, even as an adult. Like you still need advice, you need approval. I see this sometimes with students when they are just, you know, hey, am I doing this right? You need like constant affirmation along the way. Like you're so afraid to make mistakes and just every little step. When I used to do world history, and we would do project work, and I would see those sophomores in there just constantly needing affirmation that, am I doing this okay? Am I doing this okay? What tends to happen as an adult too, if you get stuck in this stage, is you will find that you like to put things in your mouth a lot, like a pencil or a pen, something you're writing on, you're chewing, you're biting on your nails, even like hard candy, like you're always, gum would be another one, is what he would say. So it can go either way. You can be like overly independent or overly dependent if you get stuck on this stage. The second stage is apes, anal. So anal goes from 18 to 36 months, and it's exactly as it sounds. The focus is definitely on bowel elimination. Going potty training is huge during this stage. I mean, 18 to 36 months, most parents, most guardians are trying to get their babies out of diapers at this point, and it's kind of like a very big milestone for actually everybody involved, if the child can actually do those things independently. Or and the child also feels a sense of pride and that they're pleasing other people. So the whole theme for psychological theme is you have self-control. So you actually can be obedient, and um you don't need to go behind the couch and hide to go to the bathroom. I know that sounds kind of funny, but if any of you are ever around little children and they have accidents and they know they shouldn't, and they've gone in their pants, sometimes they actually go and hide in the house. So it's a firm of, it's affirmation to know that I can actually have self-control. So even though an 18-month to 36-month-old child isn't saying that in their head, that's what's going on through them. If this stage is not done successfully, what potentially can happen is, as an adult, you are overly anally retentive, meaning you need everything super neat and super perfect. Kind of a little bit of an OCD, people would say. So if any of you are like that, you can actually fault your parents and to say that they screwed up potty training you at some point. Now that's just kidding, but you might want to, kid with them a little bit if you're struggling with some of those issues. You also tend to be very controlling. On the other hand, you could go the other extreme where you have little self-control. So you're like super messy. Your car is a mess. Your bedroom is a mess. Everything is unorganized. You're really kind of irresponsible. Um, you you could either have a type 8 personality where you're super organized, or you can be the other extreme where you have little self-control. Um, and so those are the two to begin with. Sorry about that. The next two are phallic, only apes prefer, remember? And so phallic stage is, the focus now becomes on the penis, and this is 3 to 6 years of age. And basically, for a female, it would be more like the areas within your genital region. So the psychological theme is morality, sexual identification. The big words that you're going to want to know here are the Oedipus and the Electra complex. For you Greek mythology students, if you studied Greek mythology as a freshman or a sophomore at Hempstead, you may recall the story of the Oedipus complex, where in Greek mythology, the god killed his father because he wanted to marry his mother. So that's kind of where Freud is getting that from. Basically, boys feel love for their moms with the Oedipus complex, and they have a lot of jealousy for their dads. And then opposite for you young females, you would have what's called the Electra complex. So boys have Oedipus complex, girls have the Electra complex. And for girls, you would actually have more of a penis envy, like you are angry with your mother for lack of having that particular anatomical body part. sounds pretty crazy, pretty wacky. That's why I was saying to you guys earlier that this is where Freud has lost a lot of psychological followers today, if you want to say. A lot of people drifted apart from his beliefs when he came out with these. If this is not resolved as an adult, you potentially could have hostility toward your same sex identity. So if I don't get this resolved as an adult, I would be much closer with my father than I am my mother. Um, as a young man, you as an adult, you could actually not identify with your father. And then you could struggle as basically male um, societal roles, is what he would say. Latency is the large piece. Remember, only apes prefer large. And so this is 6 years to puberty. So that goes on quite a long time. Latency means hidden. That's what that word means. So this is kind of the cootie stage, if you guys can recall when you were like, ooh, boys have cooties and girls have cooties, that type of thing. So it's reverse of the phallic stage. The phallic stage you identify as a young child with the opposite sex, and the latency stage you actually identify with the same sex. So this is um, where you start to repress your feelings for the rival parent. Like you basically want to identify with them. So a young little girl would want to, whatever the roles are in the house. So if dad has very stereotypical roles, like maybe the father in the house is taking care of the cars. I don't know. I'm just stereotyping here. Girls can take care of cars too, but maybe the mother in the home um, is responsible for the cooking. Again, stereotyping. Whatever that is, the boy will identify with the father, and the girl will identify with the mother. So, if a man is cooking a lot in the home, actually young boys would identify with that as a role. So you can see how you grow up and you start to accept those particular roles because of what you see in your house. It's called the identification process. I can remember clearly that when we first had our children, our oldest son was about this age, and my husband would go out and mow the grass. And I had gotten him one of those little toy lawn mowers, and he would mow right behind his dad every single time his dad was out there. It was clearly an identification process. If you don't solve this as a child, as an adult, this can lead to guilt or depression. It's very broad, if you can imagine. I mean, there's a lot of people that have depression in their lives. And I don't know how many people would say, oh, it leads back to the fact that I had struggles with my latency stage. So I'm just trying to give you both sides of the coin. Um, just knowing that some of these ideas it did happen as children were being raised, but the psychological aspect of what happens if they don't get solved seems to be a bit of a stretch for a lot of people. And if you notice on each of these slides, I keep this word fixated in one stage. It becomes a problem later in your personality. The last Okay, so this is just a funny pick. I thought the kid is too young. The Oedipal complex happens between 4 and 5. I'm also going to put an Oedipus commercial out there on Canvas too, so that you can take a look at your own time. So this is the last one. Grapes. Only apes prefer large grapes. So genital, this is the puberty stage on up. This is where you start having sexual feelings not toward your parents. They become less important. And now all of a sudden I'm thinking about whatever sexual preference I have. So um so you're thinking about like, how can I go on with life? Meaning, how can I actually um maybe procreate as you get older? Um the big key here, though, that was kind of interesting that Freud said is this sentence here, that he found, because he studied a lot of women, that a lot of women often are attracted to men that have similar traits like their own personal fathers. And he said the same thing could happen with men, that a lot of men are attracted to women that have traits like their mothers. Now, some of those traits can be really positive traits, and some of those traits can be really bad traits too. So if your if I am a young woman and my father is really a hardworking man, and that is a positive trait of his, I might be very attracted to finding a mate that is also a hard worker too. So that seems simple. That seems like it makes a lot of sense. But what about when we get into the complex aspect of what about the bad traits of my parents? What if my mother is overly dependent on my father and he talks very poorly to her? um, if I was a young man and I grew up with that, I might be attracted to a woman that is more submissive, that allows me to talk poorly to her as well. So it can actually work both ways. So that's something to be thinking about. And most of my students at that point kind of think about their people they've dated, and do they have traits of your mother or your father? Obviously, not somebody that looks like them, but maybe has a lot of similarities or at least some similarities. If you work all this out, Freud's going to say you're going to be very well adjusted and you're going to be able to balance your life and your personality is going to be just fine. One of the things I want to just, before I conclude here, is state um, if you guys can recall, when we talk about the hand, the psychoanalytic stage, and the big thing we talk about is during that school of thought, the psychoanalytic school of thought, Freud suggested that a lot of our problems or personalities stem from our childhood. A lot of who we are today is because of something that's unresolved when we were a child, and many times we might repress them and not remember them. Now it might make more sense to you as I explained oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital, because that's all from our young childhood age. I can't remember what happened to me before the age of 5. Most of you can't remember what happened to you before the age of 5, certainly not before the age of 3. And that's documented. So if you have the psychologist that's saying, hey, a lot of who you are today and the reason why you are today, both good and bad, stemmed before the age of 5, I I need a psychologist to help me bring all of those issues out, don't I? So it's kind of convenient for Freud to get more clients and more patients because they can't do this on their own. So this is my lesson today. I was going to lecture this to you all. I was going to have each of you actually write down on your desk one of those letters and then just tell me everything you can recall from them. Um, and then tomorrow I will post another video about defense mechanisms. So it'll be the third and final video about Freud. Freud does take up a bit of our time. So please, again, ask me if you have any questions. I'm going to put everybody's grades updated by the end of today. And I'm taping this on Monday. So hopefully by Tuesday when you're watching this, all the grades are current and updated. If I've done anything wrong, please let me know. Take care, everybody. I hope you have a really nice day. Good luck to all the volleyball team, well, to the volleyball team and to the football team this week. And congratulations to the musical groups that actually got some pretty nice awards this past week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.